drinking whiskey. When that whiskey's burned through my veins, Indian goes crazy and the Scotsman wants to bash out the brains of an Englishman. Don't know why. Got a little mixed up in the hills of Carolina. You see, you got your selling and you got your drinking whiskey. Oh yeah, drinking whiskey. Oh yeah.
Tonight on the season premiere of Lady Babylon Satanic Initiation, I have managed to secure for you an interview of an extraordinary, wonderful celebrity. I've brought it to you. I'm bringing it right to you tonight. We're going to be able to ask some hard-hitting questions, starting with round one tonight. We're going to move forward into that new discovery, that new Bronze Age discovery. And we're going to look at the specific drug, the compound that's so important. It's going to lead us along the path of the mystery. Tonight, season 4 begins. Lady Babylon. Tonight's subject of medicinal madness is brought to you by necessity in the present. We're going to look at these drugs. We're going to look at the combos that they're using. We're going to look at the people who are using them. We're going to ask why. And tonight we get to drop into a very sleepy place, a place where we can breach all of those bounds that we don't normally breach. We can bring forward in that religious ecstasy. We can bring forward that music. I think we have an example of some musical ecstasy. Can you hit it, Chewy? So can we pull up the headline? Yeah. This is just something to pull out of the present, right? Something just to anchor us here. Yeah, woman has loud and full body orgasm during LA Philharmonic concert. So what is that old association? Tonight, the reason that we have to come through this appearance of the orgasm, or the orgasmos in Greek, that orge root. We're coming to the orgia. We're coming to the place where we bring out the Bacchic voice, where we bring that out, right? And in order to get there, we have to anchor ourselves with, why? Why are we doing this? The drugs that were in that Bronze Age hair, that constellation of drugs, are tangled within a rite that involves sexuality. It involves the individual coming to the point of you and I would call the orgasm under the influence. And if that individual does not have within themselves that milk of calm, if they do not have that milk of calm, they won't be coming back. So this is the knowledge here is fantastic. The capability of these Bronze Age priestesses pharmacologically is considerable. So tonight, I want to look at mandrake. But before we do, I want to put everything within context. And the reason that we're here in season 4 is we are hunting. We are hunting for the mystery. We are putting Jesus within the evidence. We're looking at the evidence of what we have so that we can say, what was that naked kid doing with Jesus? Now, I've been asking that question for several years. What was that naked kid doing with Jesus? And I can tell you that from the different types of response that the responses that I've gotten from the academic community, by and large, overwhelmingly, it is fearful. People don't want to talk about it. So tonight, I thought we'd nail down Jesus and see what he thinks. Chewy, roll that.
It's me, everybody's favorite Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I just wanted to take a short break from my very busy schedule of, the miracles and, of course, other really important Jesus duties up here so that I could have a little divine intervention with you. Let's see, you've got a question for me here. Let's read it. I have just one very important question. What were you doing with that naked kid with whom you were arrested with at 4 a.m. in the public park? Yeah, you're referring to Mark 14:51. I was sharing the gospel. A good word. I know what it looks like. Yeah, listen, trust me, I was already canceled 2,000 years ago, so, I don't think I can be canceled again. It's all right. I love you. Stay blessed and try not to do anything I wouldn't do. Amen.
I agree with 80% of you. He looks guilty, doesn't he? He looks really guilty. Credits to Jesus for answering and for understanding the cost of such things, of his ability to speak, shouldn't be more than $40. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus, for your response. At least Jesus had the guts to stand there and to look us in the eye and to give us an answer. The majority of people that you encounter, that you ask them this question, what kind of answers will they give you? We're overheating here. What kind of answers will they give you? Yeah, you'll be shocked at what you get. You'll see the person come right out from that proposition. We don't care, do we? No. We are here because we want to get to the real. We want to get to the bottom. We don't care about what theories are. And I want to reemphasize that this season. We don't care what your theories are. We don't care what books you write. We don't care what classes you teach. We don't care what you're selling. We're here to find out what that crystal clear reality tastes like. Yeah, we're here for that spring, right? You guys are all devotees of the muse. We don't care that Harvard and Yale have dropped the ball and Princeton has shot its own brains out. We don't care. We don't care that they academically committed suicide. We don't care. We don't care that Harvard and Yale and every other ivory tower association on the planet is scrambling to figure out where they went wrong. We don't care. Ours is the evidence. This is the museum. We have the sources. We have the texts. Let's jump into one tonight. This is our first. I just want to give you the first Greek text that I've got up here. Yes, beautiful. Thank you, Chewy. Yeah, I'm just going to give you a little bit of Dioscorides, and this time I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to let you see the text. I'm going to flash it up here. And I'm going to tell you that we're going to be looking at Mandrake. We're going to be looking at Mandrake. And then I want to put go ahead and take the text down. And now I'm going to read it to you. For those of you who do such things, you can pause it there and you can go back over the Greek. But for those of you who say, I'm not into the Greek, but I want to hear what this has to say, for you, we'll take that down. I want to read to you about Mandrake. We call this plant, he says, the Circean. And when he says that right away, we all run to the folks at the university, and we tell them this is a compound, a polythronic compound that is called by the name that you can then piece together all of its component parts to restore it, to make it one. It's the Circean. The Circean. Okay, what is this Circean thing? This is what they're looking for in Spain, right? It's what they've got in their hair. It's what they've got in their hair. Okay, so let's look at one of the constituents of the Circean compound. It is this mandrake, the root of mandrake. And when I say Circean, I want you to remember that we are talking about late Bronze Age monarchies that are ruled by women who have extra specialized knowledge. That knowledge is being used militarily. It's being used medicinally, and it is being used in a very destructive way as well as a very positive way too. You could say it was their artificial intelligence, right? It was that burst, that fluorescence. And there are people who are known to be the pioneers of these fields. You might be surprised to find out, but Pythagoras calls this combination his oracular prophet. Give me some prophet. I need the prophet. So, strangely enough, though, this prophet is a mantic prophet. Yes, and this prophet gives you the future through insanity, through lunacy, through mania. Now, here's the thing, though, for those of you who need it, this drug can cure that violent, wrathful, fierce impulse. Yes, fantastic. That's how it's being used medically. That's how the doctors use it. Apparently very good. Stabilize your brain. Yes. They're inducing a state. Let's see what else he says about this drug. You're going to be surprised. So this is one of the Circean elements. And what do we know about this Circean element? Well, we know the Egyptians call it blah, blah, blah. You know, we've got all these different regions, but Pythagoras calls the mandrake this, his little anthropomorph. Yeah, isn't that nice? Throw up, give the mandrake up there, let people see the creepy root. Yes, and notice that this old drug, even the Zoroastrians, he says, call it this original or prime communion. The Romans have their names for it, right? And some people call it the penis of Typhon. We know that the people that are involved have these baskets. Yes, these baskets with these dildos. And it only makes sense that this medicated dildo that we're using to administer this drug. Remember, guys, that you're not in Kansas anymore. I forgot to tell you the ship. We're already there. You've got to realize that this is coming from the worship of the Great Mother, who is actively involved in the sexual maturation of what you and I would call a child. Yes. So already we're in a foreign world. We're going to have to get up, sniff that air, and we're going to say, okay, this isn't what I want, right? This isn't what I want. It's culturally, but it's there. So we're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to see the right as it was in the real. Yes. Good. So Pythagoras is steeped in the use of this mania-inducing drug, and remember, it is only the Maenads who end up bringing through the aphonia. You say, what? Yeah, it turns out if you take this drug, Diascordes tells you that it can put you into a place of where you're off phonos. Yes, and what does that mean? It means literally without a voice. It means literally without a voice. But it is a word used of the tragic chorus. It is a dropping, a roughening, a harshening of the voice chemically. In other words, we're inducing a mania, a psychosis. We'll show you the drugs in a minute, but you're inducing a psychosis with these things that involves a visionary state that is complete horror. And you say, why would you want to do that? And they say, well, in antiquity, the doctors say, well, it helps with the aggression problem. Yeah, it helps with the aggression problem. You put somebody through this initiation and you bring them out securely. You know, it's part of their health. They didn't say mental health, right? But it's a way of casting out the demons. Fantastic. You can see the health is there. Okay, so here we are with the mandrake, and he says it's very useful. It's very useful. The root and its juice are very useful in the philtron. I think I've got the Greek. Let's just go through some of these forms of the Greek up here. We'll start up here. This is the type of power that you're dealing with. The karotikos. Isn't that nice? The stupefying. And the karotikoi are a whole group of powers, right? Of drugs. Good. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. Look at, whenever we're dealing with cereals, we got to get into the sataneos, right? Remember, take it down, all of these drugs. And this is hard for us to understand, but they're using not one drug at a time. They're using compounds against other compounds. So multiple component drugs that are the dote and the antidote or the antipharmacon being these mixtures that are used to buffer, right, to maximize the potential without killing the patient. So they're under the influence of a lot of drugs, and they tweak it with the more opium here. Have you seen how much Diascordes has on opium, right? The surgeons are using mandrake if they want to put you to sleep, to take something out of you, or to cauterize, he says. They have to put you under the influence of the mandrake. It can knock you out for 2 to 3 hours, and their hours are like 2.5 hours. So, and that's why he says the surgeons use them. Right? Good. But we have these states. What if we are missing something here? And that we have failed in our struggle for mental health. We failed to cast out our demons because we dropped the ball. We let the compounds and the knowledge of those compounds go. We let them go. And now we've got nothing on the receiving end. We know that these chemicals work in the brain. We know they do certain things. We know that when you enter death, the brain acts differently. Yes. Now, what do we know about inducing this state in an individual through a polypharmaceutical process, right? The only way we're going to get there is through the mandrake, is through the actual evidence, through the actual drugs that are used. This is fantastic. The juice makes a filter. And what is a filtron? I've got another. Just keep bringing me up the Greek. Maybe it's one of these. There we go. Just click away, Chewy. Okay, is this the filtron? Yes, it is. Okay, look at here, people. Look at what we've got. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at this filtron. You know what you use these things for? You use these things to bring yourself to the moment that you're able to understand the past and the future all at the present, right? This is Temple of Aphrodite stuff. right? Temple of Aphrodite stuff. And I just want you to notice that can just mean the thing that causes love and affection, right? That thing that brings you there. So remember, when we're talking antiquity, we're talking this the sexiness of the science is off the chart, right? All of it is complaining about, oh man, I've been taking so many aphrodisiacs, I can't get an erection anymore. What am I going to do for that, right? So, what do you, in order to exist in a society where they're using all of these drugs in a very sophisticated way, you've got to have a college of priestesses, please. Those of you at the Bronze Age stuff realize the level that we're working with here. It's just phenomenal. It's off the charts. The education here is off the charts. It's wonderful. I just want to make one quick note from the text, right? You'll get a lot of talk about, well, you take so much, and you take even more, double that, and this kind of group of symptoms you'll get. You won't just get the mania, the psychosis, right? That's stage 1, by the way. For all of you who are keeping track with our drug cocktails, yes, we're at stage 1 here, is the mania. Right? So you have to keep it at a certain level, right? You don't go off the edge. And, thank goodness there's guys like Nicander who say, look, here's the antidotes for when you catch these people out and they're off the edge and all they can do is make animal noises, right? Remember, where are we? We're at the late Bronze Age. And if you're not careful, Circe, queen of the Etruscans, is going to cut off your gonads and give you drugs anally with a wand and put you into a cage, turn you into that eunuch servant, right? Oh God, turn you into that pig. Where do you think the Sibyls are coming from in the Bronze Age? Where do you think that tradition is coming from? Sibyl is a Etruscan word, man. That C is the word for gods. I didn't get that from anywhere. I got that from John Littis. You want to look up? We'll look up John Littis. See what he says about Sibyls. Yeah. Love it. Love it. I love this stuff. So here we are. We still got the mandrake, and I still want you to see, what are we doing? We're going into that manic. We're going into that manic stage. Okay, so what is the delirium that is so beneficial medicinally that we are bringing, right? What is that? Because that's the state that we want to get to. And we're only going to get there with a proper balance of drugs and the right sexual act. That's going to get us. Somebody asked me, what's the purpose of all of the use of this drug, right? That these guys like Pythagoras and these oracles are flipping out on. What's the use of this kind of thing? Is it just vision? Is it just insight? And I would have to say, you and I are sitting in a history of oracles. It doesn't matter what countries you're from. It doesn't matter what your peoples are, what your ethnicities are. It doesn't matter what your language is. You are still sitting within a history that is a struggle for the mystery itself, for the performance of the mystery. To bring back that cup of Lady Babylon is the greatest danger to the Christian religion. It's the greatest danger to the followers of Moses. I'm not talking those Israelis that are out partying in the disco, right? Who talk about the dotis. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the Orthodox. I'm talking about the fundamentalists, right? This greatest threat to their system is the control of the mystery. And what was this mystery that was operating in the ancient world? What was the purpose? Out of it, every time, out of it comes the oracular capacity to read the future and the past in the present. Now, hang on a second. Before you jump and you're like, oh, it's fortune telling, right? It is fortune telling, but it's fortune telling on a scientific level. It's fortune telling via chemistry and via music. Yeah, it's an accelerated form of learning. It's the Pythagorean root. It's the reason he's in the cave. Yes, it's a development. It's a development before Jesus and Mary ever got together. He had to cast 7 demons out of her. All right. So these states of mania that are associated with the soter, right, were originally states of mania associated with the sotera. With the sotera. Yeah. Throw me up these last. I need to. Devil said, hurry up. Tonight we're going to have at 7. At 1:30, we're going to have Old Boy, who's going to bring us some new info from the Britons. He's been running back in time for us. Go ahead and bring up, which of these have we not seen? There we go. Yeah, I just want you to see here's struchnon, right? And look at 3 and 4, struchnon manikon and struchnon hypnotikon. So you have very different, effects here mentally, and Dioscorides will mention these. So you have the regular sleep, and then you have the manic state, right? And some of the plants are better at introducing that maniac state, that good mania. Right? Okay, let's get another one. I just want you to see the huosquamao, to be mad from taking himbane, right? So when you're tripping on this stuff and you've got the purple stain and they know you're one of those, right? They'll probably call you the prophetai. They'll probably call you the galoi, right? They've got different names for them. The followers of Kotito. Don't you like that one? Oh, that's a good one. This is what you've got on board. This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing to enter. Go ahead and put up Ezekias. I want people to see Ezekias. Look here. This is to be crazy. Manie apotes pos, from the communion drink, right? From the potion itself, right? There's a heart to the mandrake. Oh, Eve is always, she's always right there, pertinent. There's a heart to the mandrake. And Dioscorides says, you can give somebody that heart, that fruit, right? You can give somebody that fruit. And that fruit is the thing that opens the eyes. That fruit is the heightened awareness. Yeah, it is that thing which got us all kicked out of the garden. Yeah, right? Now we have to have that painful childbirth. Don't be fooled. This all goes back to the childbirth. If you don't have a fetus somehow involved here, you're in the wrong place. And if you aren't seriously considering drinking fetal juice, then you don't drink the blood and eat the flesh. Yes, you don't drink the blood and eat the flesh. With the mandrake, we can follow. We can say, okay, we've got another group. We've got another group of drugs that are what I'm calling constellations. That's my own. I'm just trying to characterize what's going on. But we've got another constellation of drugs that has a very specific role that you can see driven throughout the history from the earliest recorded Greek that we've got. From the earliest recorded Greek, when all we've got's the wanasa, right? All we've got's the wanasa. We have those drugs from the very beginning, and we have these women. And I really wanted to stress, we are starting to see, because the Bronze Age archaeology is flourishing right now, we're beginning to see different kind of society that is this poison arrow horse culture. And we see that there are, surprise, there are women who are the generals. You know, the Chinese didn't like this in the Bronze Age. They had a very male-driven and were looked down upon female power. Yeah, because their problem was with those guys who were riding around, whose women are the generals. Yeah, and who were fighting out in the front. Yeah, and they're mobile horse troops. Yeah, the Greeks had to deal with these people too, right? These were the Amazzone, or these were the Massagetai. Yeah, these were the people who were there. These are the people who were there to use that poison in the arrow. So mandrake tonight. Mandrake. We've got to root ourselves in the physical nature of what they were doing. Tonight's mandrake shows us that we can have families of drugs that are meant to achieve certain effects in health, certain effects in cult. We can have those families of drugs. And our last surprise tonight, we are looking for those of you who are interested in the more esoteric, right? I know a lot of people out there talking about esoteric, right? But if you really want the esoteric, you want to know what rites were used by the Caesars. You want to know what rights were the rulers' rights, and you want to follow those, which we can. We can. I can tell you what Augustus Caesar did in the privacy of his own bedroom. Yeah, I can tell you that. I can tell you that. Why? Because that drug has left a fingerprint. And when I say drug, please, people, please understand, I do not mean a single drug. I do not mean one thing. Let's bring up those tropane alkaloids. Look at this. These are the drugs we're talking about, people. Look at this. From our plants here, our family. Here's our mandrake, right? Here's our belladonna. Here's our datura. And look at the chemicals that we're getting. These all have that tropane ring, right? With that one nitrogen. Oh, this is gorgeous. And these, look wait, cocaine. It's over there. Right. Now you're starting to get the Bacchic frenzy. This is not the place for the hippies, right? Hippies don't show up. Don't show up singing songs. Don't. If you're going to participate in these rites, you're going to have to enter the darkness. You're going to have to enter that mania. You're going to have to worship Melinoe, the goddess of black mania. Dark, black, putrid mania. These are the gods of death, man. This is Lhasa stepping forward. This is the one who's going to smash your pumpkin with her giant sledgehammer, right? This is the death and resurrection of the mystery. For those of you who call yourselves Christians, this is the mystery that you took up after your master Jesus, who was himself arrested in a public park at 4 a.m. with a naked boy. Tonight, we welcome, is Aldboy here? Is Aldboy here? Nope, he's not here. You're 4 minutes late here. We're going to have to revoke the pay that he does not get. As we wait for Aldboy, just to give us a little background on the Britons, our interest is with the Puella, who brings the miraculous cure. And here he is. Here's Aldboy. Aldboy, let me introduce you to the group. It's Aldboy is a intensive Greek student, and he has an interest in finding out things Britain. And tonight I just want to ask him, as an ignoramus, as somebody who does not study this field, it is not my field. But I like to dabble in it because we all can read, right? Tell me something. Do we have any overlap between these classical Bronze Age queens performing their magic and doing their sexual thing. Do we have any overlap between these and, are there Britons anywhere that we can pull up a rock and find these same people? Tell me about it.
I've definitely, first of all, can you hear me okay? Okay, so basically I've come at this from a point of view where I actually was looking into this history and mythology, and I started noticing these sort of themes. And then when I stumbled across your work, I noticed that there was these similarities, and that was kind of spurred me on to look into it deeper for sure. So as I've gone into some of the texts and I'm looking at it through this lens of trying to, just seeing it from everything that you've been sort of teaching and showing in these past videos, and there's definitely motifs that are cropping up that are similar. So basically today, the presentation that I've got, we've looked at some of the Irish mythology. It's actually taken us to the Irish mythology and to Maeve. So that's who we're going to be looking at today.
Fantastic. Do you want to just throw her out there? I know that, let me ask this. I know that Maeve is the same, is the same person as MEDB, is the same person perhaps as MAB. What is it with the overlap of these princesses? Can we keep these people straight, or are they all becoming one?
Well, they're definitely, the linguistics definitely think there's some connection between the Old Irish and the Old Welsh. So Maeve, which is sometimes spelled MEDB, her name is assumed to be cognate with the Celtic Medu, which means mead, from the Proto-Indo-European Medu, which is mead or honey. This is continued into the Old Irish mid, the Old Welsh meth, modern day Welsh meth, which is spelled MEDD, and Breton mez. So Breton is is kind of like the Brittany area. So this was a colony that left from Cornwall and set up in Brittany, sort of post-Roman era. So you also get the adjective medwa, which is derived from the noun and underlies the Old Irish Maeve, which is strong or intoxicating. And in the Welsh, you get meddu, which means drunk. And so you can see that the thing that I like about the Welsh is that you can see the component word. So, for example, meth means the mead. You have meddu, which is intoxicated. There's a herbal remedy called metheglin, which that's got quite a history to it. It seems to be a bit of a watered down version of it these days, but when you read in the old text, it does seem to be more of like a herbal kind of remedy. And then a doctor is actually a methig. So you can see how the component, it has connotations associated with healing and also intoxication. And that's where the crossover seems to be, because Maeve's daughter, Findavar, some people actually link that name with Guinevere, because in the Welsh it's pronounced Gwynhwvar. So it's slightly different in the Welsh, and in the Old Welsh and the Old Irish, there's this kind of connection which some people say exists.
It makes me think that Pelasgian, they think maybe the Proto-Indo-European was Pelasgian or something. It makes me think that this overlap between the Mycenaean digamma in Medwa versus Medea versus your Britons and Celts, Welsh, Irish, using this very same root. It makes me think that somehow that's older and it's coming through. Linguistically, it's coming through different branches. I wonder, do you think, what do you think of the magic angle of all of this? Because don't all of these women have magical powers?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a few kind of areas that link from Maeve. So you have a goddess kind of aspect. You also have a sovereignty aspect, and you also just have her as like a ruler and a healer. And all of the meetings that take place, the large meetings, they always occur in the mead hall as well. So that's kind of like her space, if she's the Mead woman, which is what they believe her name means. So this is where all the meetings take place, in the Mead Hall. And with regards to the magic, there's definitely inclinations to that in the text, especially as there's one text which actually mentions that Cuchullan's chariot rider, it says, has a mantle made of raven's feathers, which was given to him by Simon Magus. So there's these other kind of sections where, because Cuchullan, he's kind of like a hero figure, and he basically slaughters everybody that he comes across, but he goes into these frenzies, these rages, and it often mentions there's kind of an underlying meaning to the text. You can tell, for example, if I find one. So one of the foretellings regarding Cuchulain, this is what it says: fair of deeds, the man I see, wounded sore is his fair skin. On his brow shines the hero's light, victory's seat is in his face. 7 gems of champions brave deck the centre of his orbs, his eyes. Naked are the spears he bears, and he hooks a red cloak around. Noblest face is he I see, he respects all womankind. Young the lad, and fresh his hue, with a dragon's form in fight. So that's just an example of how he's described. And there are actually a couple of sooths. So in the Feast of Bricriu, you have 3 champions, and they're all in a competition to see who's the greatest champion. And it kind of escalates as the story goes along. And eventually they decide to go to Maeve and Alleel's castle to see who can prove themselves to be worthy of the champion's portion, which is kind of like a prize. So these 3 charioteers, they're all racing towards the castle. And Maeve asks Findavar to describe the chariot. And she says, I see another chariot coming along the plain. Give us its description, quoth Maeve. I see in sooth. So this is a soothsayer, which is kind of almost like a prophecy. They kind of see it with a second sight. And basically she describes the horse coming. And then when you get onto the description of Cuchullan, this is what they have to say. In the chariot a sad, melancholy man, comeliest of the men of Erin. Around him a soft crimson, pleasing tunic, fastened across the breast where it stands open, with a salmon brooch of inlaid gold, against which his bosom heaves, beating in full strokes. And then it goes to describe in great detail his horses. And then it says, set in each of his eyes 8 red dragon gemstones, his 2 cheeks blue, white, and blood red. He emits sparks of fire and burning breath, with a ray of love in his look. A shower of pearls, methinketh, have fallen into his mouth. Each of his 2 eyebrows as black as the side of a black spit. On his 2 thighs rests his golden hilted sword, and fastened to the copper frame of the chariot is his blood-red spear. It goes on and just describes him, but you can basically, I can tell here that there's an underlying theme. There's a second meaning to this script, in my opinion, and I can kind of see some of the images that I get from your work and from what I've seen from your presentations.
What do you think, old boy, about the prophetic side? So you've got that tradition in Monmouth's work of Merlin being that prophet, right? Somehow he has stepped outside and he's able to have this uncanny ability to understand the future in the present. So he's beyond everybody's reach. That oracular power of the Sibyl is associated with specific drug cult ritual. So I guess what I'm asking is, does this thing just thrive in nature? Do we just have it coming over and over? Are we perpetuating a priesthood through time? Or is this something that just spontaneously erupts? How is Merlin that oracular prophet? How has he captured that role? So much so that the prophets that Dioscorides are talking about are claiming that these are their base powers. These drugs are their base powers. So is Merlin, first of all, is Merlin a drug user? And second of all, what's the real power of prophecy here? And is it natural? Is it just coming up, or is it some kind of perpetuation of a priestly thing?
So in Geoffrey of Monmouth's work, it's clearly seen as a really important aspect of the community as well, I suppose, because one of the kings is desperate to get Merlin back. He takes off into the woods, and Geoffrey of Monmouth himself is clearly familiar with the Greek classics. I've seen people describe his Vita Merlin. It's actually written in hexameter, from what I've seen. And he mentions and cites quite a lot of these works, such as Ovid, epistles from Pontus, things like this. And he compares Merlin to Silenus to some degree in the life of Merlin. And he takes off into the woods because he doesn't want anything to do with money, people. He just wants to live in the woods with the animals and the trees and nature. And he's obsessed with his apple trees. So there's also always mention of these apples. And actually Avalon, where Arthur later goes when he's wounded, that comes from the Avalon, comes from the word apple as well. It means the Isle of Apples. So there's always these mention of the apples as well. So I personally do believe that there was drug use going on. And there was an early writer called Camden, I believe, if memory serves. And he actually says that the Celtic Bellus or Bellinus comes from henbane, because the Welsh language, funnily enough, also kind of letters mutate. So the beginning of a word, the letter can change, a bit like in the Greek, you know how it tunes the words when they run into each other so they sound better. The Welsh kind of does the same, and a contraction of Bellin would be Melin, which means yellow. So it's something to do with this yellow, bright god. And obviously Beltane, they're burning these big fires, they're worshipping the god Bel. So I think looking at the cultures as well, where they're seen as, you know, breathing in this fumigation and taking on the qualities of the deity, you know, it seems to tick the boxes for me personally, anyway.
Yeah, nice, gorgeous, gorgeous. It always comes back to those apples of the Hesperides, doesn't it? And it's almost as if nature has a state that you can discover, that you can go there and discover, and that you have clues along the way, and it's putting it together and finding it. And all of a sudden, when you found that, you get weird things like this great healer, right? When you said Merlin takes Arthur there, right? He takes him to be healed, right, to her. So, I mean, there's a reason that Circe kills Odysseus and brings him back to life, right? And Lycophron is the one who brings that in. So there's something about these. I've often wondered, oh boy, if it is not the case that through time, the Sibyl propagates herself, and that the Romans weren't as crazy as we thought they were, because they said that very thing. They even the smarty Greeks with their Heraclitus understood the power of the propagation of the Sibyl. Was it a fact that she lived over 1,000 years? Was it a fact that she always appeared to be a teenager? Was it a fact that she gave the laws that start our civilization? And I mean us, modern, you know, on both sides of the pond, right? That civilization, we are what we are because of these traditions. And these traditions, look at the henbane, these traditions are rooted in some advanced pharmacology that holds great promise for medicine. If you can take a substance like scopolamine or atropine, and under the right circumstances, you can cause somebody to enter that maniac phase and then bring them out of it, and they achieve some sort of recircuitizing, reorientation of the brain. I don't know what it is. The neuro guys will figure it out. But yeah, there's something there that we can't overlook this. Oh boy. Thank you for coming tonight, and I know that I'll have much demand to bring you back. Please continue this research. I want to be creating a history for us here where we can see the movements of these things. I had somebody just ask me today, what happened that, when the Sibyls failed, the flame died out, the oracular flame died out, and Christianity took over and oppressed that movement. Is that where we lost progress medically? Is that where we slowed ourselves down? Yeah, with this history, nobody studies this stuff. But now that they found the henbane, thank goodness they found the henbane, because I thought this wasn't going to be sexy at all. But now it's totally sexy. Filters. Can I ask you one last question, and then I'm going to go. I'll be at the meeting tonight on Lady Babylon, but I want to ask you this: what is the sex connection? Everything you've been reading about, what have you gotten? Just like a general sense of the sex connection.
Yeah, it's definitely there, because if you look at Maeve herself, it looks like she had 9 husbands, and you had to marry her to become the king. And the deal was sealed with an offer from a cup, from a chalice. So, and even in the texts, for example, she's not married to Cuchulainn, but when he comes, she knows he's got this rage, so she does everything to placate him. They bring out 50 women. This is a number that crops up time and time again, 50. And then she spends the night with him herself as well, even though her husband's in the castle. So she's spending that time with him, and it says in the text as well, he gets the champion's reward, which is a drink from a chalice, some wine, and she gives him a dragon stone as well, and it says the size of both of his eyes. And then I've been to a few of these old buildings, these old aristocratic houses just in England, and I have seen images of the man feeding from the breast as well. So, there's people who are definitely trying to preserve this anyway, definitely.
Yeah, and we didn't get there tonight, but in that, okay, so if we know that the sexuality is part and parcel of the whole foundation of the right, and the kings and the passing on of power, right? All of that kind of stuff, right? It's all there, all the way back to Georgia, where we're talking about kingdoms. Yeah, definitely. Could it be? I hate to keep pushing this because people don't want to talk about it, but could it be that they found something, that they were doing something medically that was sexual and involved drugs, that's just because of our weird kind of perverted history that we can't look at it for what it is? Is there any hope? This is how I'll ask it. Is there any hope, old boy, for bringing back the sex right without cracking the ceiling of the universe? You know what I mean?
I think definitely there's a way to do it. I think it's down to understanding as well, really. And I think, you present that idea to somebody who hasn't got the context and the background, and, it would seem quite abstract to them. But certainly when you're reading these mythologies and these texts, it just seems, people didn't kind of bat an eyelid to that kind of thing. Cuchulainn's wife, she's letting him go off and do these types of things. So I think there's definitely scope. I think it's just getting a bit more of an understanding out there, to a wider audience.
It's just a matter of time before we have fetal communion that will enable us to fend off certain diseases, enable us to live longer, healthier lives, maybe less inflammatory lives. Mm-hmm. Something anti-carcinogenic, something that gives us, why did they hold up this serpent? Why did they follow these traditions? Why is this the thing that has been more influential, right? We think that we're in a Judeo-Christian society. I hear people talk about that all the time. You can talk about monotheist society. You talk about the West. But that still obscures the fact that our entire history is not about nations and peoples. It's about a right, and it's about the use of a right. And the Jews, the Orthodox Jews and the Christians, the fundamentalists, they know, they have an instinct because it's baked into their own foundations. I love this. Let's bring Lady Babylon back. And Old Boy, we'll do that. You and I will bring her back. How's that?
Let's make waves doing it. Yeah, let's get on it.
All right. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to everybody for being here. And thanks to Old Boy, who is our new star. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Thank you.
Drinking whiskey.